Hello, world. Welcome to episode 38 of the podcast Monitor. Last time we branched off and started working on the MessageFactory deliverable. We designed the messages that we wanted, and then we set up the unit test for the MessageFactory. So now we can just go right ahead and implement it. Before we do that, I do want to add a few extra tasks for the feed information, and we'll probably just do that under this same deliverable. So what you'll notice is that we want to add feed information so people can kind of click and go right to the episode. So we'll want to collect those, add them into this feeds here, and then update the code kind of to handle that. So let's get started and update these tasks here. So I'm just going to copy this one. So we have, oh wait, what ordering did we do? I think, are they always in, looks like they're, oh no, we didn't, okay. Oh, actually, so we did add podcast links to JSON files. So we already did add that task. But I am going to add another task, 40. And we're going to say update metadata code etc. to handle links, podcast links. Okay. So I did actually, did I do that at the very end? Updated word tracker. Oh, okay, so I did do that at the end. I forgot about that. So we'll go get commit and added another task to pull links in code. Okay. So now we can get started, and we're basically just going to use the test stuff here. So let's run test suite all. And we have this module error here. So we can just, for now we can just repro that here. So the first thing we need to do is we need to add the module to import the MessageFactory from. So we'll come in here and we'll say MessageFactory.py, and we'll have class MessageFactory. And we'll do a git add and git commit -m created message factory module. Alright, so now if we run it again, we get now all the other tests run, but we get the errors from our test. So let's just run that. So we'll run Python tests, and it is MessageFactory. So we get the same errors here. And as you can see, no attribute, get podcast list, get podcast info sub, get podcast info main, get podcast info main, right? So obviously, when we're down here, we're using the MessageFactory, these methods we don't have yet, so we need to implement them. So we'll come in here and we'll say def And as you can tell, if you look at the file as we are updating this one, as we're doing it, it's realizing these are now in that file. So it's finding them. They went from gray to yellow. All right. So now if we run this, we still get the errors because we are missing the arguments, right? We only have the self here, and these all take different arguments and stuff, right? So as you can see, 4 arguments were given, 3 arguments were given, 4 arguments were given. So we'll take this, just paste this here for a second. So the get podcast list, episodes, and that's a list. And then we have what is essentially in the message this date. So we can just say date, string, and the @ for who it is, right? So if we're looking today, someone released. So we can just say podcast ID, also a string, and we're expecting to get back a message, which is a string, so we'll go string there. So now if we run it, that one should no longer error, so that one gets the failure, and these other 2 get errors. So let's now go ahead and update these other 2. So we have the sub, and we have main. And these are actually exactly the same, so we'll just do them simultaneously. All right, so here we have a singular episode, right? And we're going to put that for now for a second, and then we're going to do this next one is the podcast ID, maybe, and then links list. And so let me check out the message. So this is for these can only be found on the. So this isn't really. Well, okay, I guess yeah. This would be the same sort of thing. It's the same sort of today someone released this can only be found. So it's a sub feed, which if they have a Twitter URL, right? So like I know Cooligans actually does. So this would be like @ whoever they are. So this will also be that ID there. So now if I run it, I'm going to get the error again because I don't have episode. And so in here, if I want to use it, for this, I could say from episode import episode, and then I can also in here say this is a list of episodes, right? And now if I run it, I get one more error still, which is for missing one required positional arg links for get main info. Oh, so just main info. Wait, let's see here. Get podcast info main. Oh, so it looks like actually this one we made a mistake and can be found on the main feed or the Cooligans. Oh, these supposed to be different methods, right? Cooligans can only be found on the main feed. Okay. So this is actually info main, and this is info both. So I need a separate one here. So this is actually going to be that. And that's going to be this, and this one doesn't take that. So now if I run it, it should be good. No, yeah, we still have an error. Oh, I didn't save it, that's fine. Okay, so we're gonna say get git add tests, git commit dash m, corrected method call in a UT, and then you're gonna go git commit am declared each factory method. Okay, so now we just need to implement them to get them to pass if we run this, right? So let's start with the podcast list messages, and so that is this one, right? And so it basically says none is not equal to this, right? So right now we're not actually returning anything, so we need to basically from this info that is given, right? So this is from the episodes, which are these. We need to print this message, which is of the form from messages, right? So in here, we need to go, so we'll come into MessageFactory, and we'll say from messages, import messages. And so for this first one, actually, so all of these, hold on, I'm gonna remove this real quick because there was one thing I forgot to do. And these all return a string. Corrected return types for methods. Okay. Now we'll come back in here and we'll say from messages import messages. And so for this first one, we want messages dot podcast. Today's podcast list is the format. And basically we need to insert into it these things, right? So we want to, at the end, we're going to want to return the message format, and we're going to insert in the date is the first one here. The second one is the podcast ID, and then the third one is the episode list. And it's going to be these list lines, right? So what we basically want to do is we want to say well here, okay, let's just say episode bullets. And I'm going to use this notation in here. Okay, so what is episode bullets? So episode bullets is going to be joined together these list lines, right? Well, so I guess before I do that, what I'm going to do is, what I need to do is take each episode, right? So for episode, we'll just do EP, for EP in episodes, right? We want the name. So if we look at the episode here, right, we want the title of it. So we want ep title. And we can do two things. So we can just say titles equals this. And then we would have to loop through this again and insert them into this list line, right? So what we actually can do is we'll just say messages.listLine, and we'll insert this, the title, into it. So we'll do S, or no, well, it's L, title lines. And then in here, we'll do the episode bullets as a string is just joining L title lines. And then this is spelled incorrectly. Episode bullet lines, episodes bullet lines. All right. So we'll save that. And we can run this. All right, so now there is something slightly different, and it looks like it might be like a spacing or something in some of them. So let's see. So let's come in here. And it is. These have, that has an extra space there. And the mystery crates look fine. Oh, I think this is an extra new line at the end. Which maybe we'll want to strip off, but we can always do that later. So now let's run this. All right. Cool. And so now this test now passes. So if we look at the diff here, we have the definition of that one, and then we have those minor updates there. So we'll do them one at a time. So we'll say, so if we look at the log, we'll say git add tests, and we'll say git commit -m. Minor correction in test strings, and then we'll say git commit -am and define get podcast list. Okay, so now for the next ones, we're gonna have to make a slight update here, so we'll do that in a second. But let's first start. Let's just start with let's start with this one. Let's start with the both. Actually, no. Let's start with the main only because it has one. Whatever. Doesn't matter. What order are they in? All right. Well, I'll just start with this one. All right, so here it's going to be very similar. We're going to do s message format equals messages dot sub only. And if we look at the sub, the sub feed is the title of the episode can be found on the feed, and then the links. So basically it's going to be at the end we're going to return sMessage format %, and it's going to be instead episode title. Then it's going to be the podcast ID. And actually, there's an interesting thing here. Well, now we actually have a similar thing with these links. And even though I didn't do it here, I think I'm going to do those in bullets as well, because I might as well just use the same format that I already have. So I can basically take these two lines, move them down here, update this to be, instead of title lines, this is going to be list of link lines. the list line here is instead going to take link for link in links, right? So we're just putting them all in there, and then we're doing the same sort of join with this. This is going to be s link bullets, and then we're going to take that and put that there. All right, so now the test is going to fail because we don't actually have any links being passed in, but the test is kind of asking for them. So if we run this, oops. So if we run this, we see, oops, still 3 failures. Oh, well, of course. What was the one we did? Sub only. So it says they're not equal, but it unfortunately doesn't have as nice of a print as the other one. Can only be found on the Cooligan subfeed. Found on the Cooligan subfeed. Links. Oh, so it does have it here, actually, the plus links. So in this case, we don't have any links given. And so at least for now, because we're passing in an empty list, we're just going to do that. And it passed. Okay. So I'm going to do this for now because we don't have any links. When we add the links in and we want to add them into the messages, we can go ahead and we can update this test with some links that we want to pass along. And, well, I guess we could just do that now because we're not actually because the other thing is, like, technically this should also go in the metadata, but it doesn't really have to for the test. You know what? I'm just going to add them right now because it'll be, so let's switch over. And so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to find Lebetard and Friends podcast network. And so what do we have? We have Spotify and Apple. And so if we come here, this is the Spotify link, right, that comes to this feed. So we're going to come over here, copy that, and we'll say self.spotify and then switch back over, and this is the, I'm actually gonna remove this because that's actually not necessary. I'm also gonna remove the US because that's not necessary. I'm gonna copy this. So if I click this, what you'll see is it opens up to the same exact thing anyway. And that's gonna be the actual way I like use the link. So let's come back here and we'll say self dot, I guess iTunes. Oh, is it iTunes? Apple Podcasts. Okay, Apple link. And put that in there. And what we'll simply do here is go self.spotify link, self.apple link. Copy this, paste, move that there, move that there, and then in here, so in here actually we'll do and I'm just gonna paste these in. And it'll be in the same order that they were in here. And then we'll do paste that in. And now need to add new line. And then so I should just be able to paste this there and paste this here. Okay. Now let's run it. Still passes. Cool. All right. So now if we look at the diff here, we have the definition that we added in there, and then we added those links, and then we updated the tests. So we're going to git add tests, and we'll say git commit -m, and we'll have added LNF links and updated tests. And then we'll say git, where do we implement this one? And we'll say git commit -am defined that. Okay, so now we just have 2 more to go, and they're going to be very similar. In fact, I think we can literally just do this. We have to make one minor update to this one because it doesn't have this. And then we have to update this to both and this to main. Run it, and everything passed. So git commit am defined main and both methods. UT's pass. Okay, so now there's a very obvious refactoring that we can do here because everything is literally the same. There's also the... I don't know that there's anything I really want to do with this. So I think that's going to be fine. So why don't, when we're looking at this, why don't we do a quick refactor and we'll finish off the impl, and then we can do the, add the actual links into stuff, and then we'll basically be complete with the MessageFactory. Well, so we'll do the links and stuff another time, but I'll just do the quick refactor here. So this will be def form message format string so the one interesting thing is this one only takes 2. And so we'd be passing this in, right? And so the idea would be if we pass in this and this string, or this string, and this string, or this string, but what if this one's none? Then we have to kind of have an if-else. I can easily put this in this. So let's start with that. Let's just go with def bullet list. I don't need the format because they all use the same thing. And this will be items for the list, and it will return a string. And it will literally just be, wow. But again, okay, so this one is just all the items in the list. And this one we'd already have to, well, but I guess we could do that. Let's try this real quick. So this is basically return join messages list line item for item in items. And so here we have bullet list self dot no, not self dot, just self. Self dot bullet list here. So an episode, and this can actually just replace that. And then this one also becomes self bullet list, except it's just links. That's the same. That, remove this. Get rid of that. Get rid of these. Get rid of that. Get rid of these. Get rid of these. Let's see. I guess that's fine. Git commit -am refactored bullet list method. Okay. So now, is there anything else? Now, the other thing we could do, in fact, we could say titles equals. So we could just pull this out to kind of clean up that lower line. How many times am I going to spell that wrong? One more time, apparently. Okay. And then this here, we can basically say this is L titles, and then we'll just put this on that line. So run this, git commit, and now basically the last thing, if we were like, hey, do we want to refactor this any further? In theory, now this line is a little different, right? So we could remove we could basically say, you know, have a method instead that would basically be like return la, and here we would say messages dot today, and then we pass in the date, the podcast ID, and titles. And these would be exactly the same with just episode title instead of this, and we wouldn't need this extra line here. So we could, and the question is, I think if it's only useful if it's clear, right? And so here this would be like message, or this we could say form message. And so basically you would need the format. You would need the first thing, which is the key, and then you would need optionally a podcast ID, and then you would need items, and then an optional ID. the other way. All right, and so basically here we're saying return or if ID return format key ID self dot bullet list items, and then otherwise we're just going to return the same thing without the ID. Okay, so now the question becomes, and then basically this, so I'm going to do this one. I'll start with this one, right? So then this becomes return self dot form message messages dot podcast info sub only episode title links podcast ID. All right, and so it doesn't even really fit on this line. It would require multiple lines regardless. And so which is clearer, right? Is it clearer to say this just to do this? And the answer I think is no. So we're going to check out. Let's go back. I didn't save it. All right, now we'll check it out. All right, so now we should be clean. Let's just run the whole test suite. All right, everything passes. Okay, so I think that's fine for the refactoring. I think that's fairly clean. And I think this is pretty good too for now. Not pulling in the messages, so we can remove that. So I'll just get rid of that. Commit removed unused import. All right, so get log one line dash 15 status get tag at 38. Actually, before I do that, let me update the work tracker. So this will be complete. And we'll say git commit am updated work tracker tasks. And now we'll go git tag 38. Cool. And so that's all for this one. Next time we'll go and basically do what we just did for the one show. We'll look up all the show feeds. We will update feeds here with all that information. Maybe we'll also do the ats and stuff for the Twitter stuff if we want. And we'll probably also, depends on how long that takes. It's just kind of like manual work. But we either will or maybe we'll update the code here. I think the code will run fine because it only wants it in there. So like it shouldn't cause any errors in any of the tests or anything. But then when we will add it in, we'll have to like update the tests and stuff. So we'll do that. We'll start getting on that next time. So until then, see ya.